All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Adam. Today, I'm going to be discussing about the PMA drug for my biology project. Unfortunately, I cannot read the whole term because it's hard to pronounce, but we're going to be calling it PMA because that's the short abbreviation for that drug. So let's get started. So, what is PMA? PMA is a hallucinogenic drug that is similar to ecstasy. PMA was created in the 1970s but gained popularity back in the 1990s. PMA is cheaper to produce than ecstasy and can be more deadly. Fun fact about PMA is that it has a nickname called Pink McDonald's. The reason being is that sometimes the PMA pills will have like a pink color. And if you look closely to the top right of my screen, that little picture, sometimes those PMA pills can have the letter M, and the letter M looks like the golden arches of the McDonald's logo. So that's why they call it Pink McDonald's as one of their street names or nicknames. So, what are the side effects of PMA? The side effects of PMA are increased heart rate and blood pressure, difficulty breathing, muscle spasms, and increase of body temperature. PMA and exercise have a similar effect on the body. Even with a little dose of PMA, it can still affect your body. So, how does PMA affect our bodies? PMA can affect our bodies by how it can block the serotonin through the neurotransmitters. Serotonin does play an important role in the body, it regulates your mood, your sleep, and your sensitivity towards pain. If you look at my right hand side of the screen where my cursor is, that little speck, that little green speck is serotonin. The serotonin travels down through the neurotransmitter and then ends up in the synapse. So if the person were to consume PMA, it's actually going to block the serotonin to go through the neurotransmitters, which can cause, of course, the person, like I mentioned before, could have a bad mood or could have lack of sleep or can feel the pain even more painful. And what are the laws that are against PMA? So PMA has been listed under the Schedule 1 drug since 1973. A Schedule 1 drug means that it is a high risk for abuse and it is not safe for medical use. PMA, however, is only allowed for Schedule 1 drugs, research only. That's it. They can't use anything else for PMA. It is only for Schedule 1 drug research only. That's it. And PMA is also under the Ecstasy Anti-Proliferation Acts of 2000. Since the drug is similar to ecstasy, those who are involved in manufacturing and also selling the drugs can lead to big sentencing or get in big in trouble in general. On the bottom right hand side of my screen, it will show you all the classes or schedules of drugs. So, of course, you see C-1, and it will tell you that these drugs have a high potential for abuse, no medical uses for the treatment. And what's funny is that ecstasy, it shows here that ecstasy is an example, so probably the PMA will be also in that category because they kind of relate to each other. And if you look at the bottom, C-V, so that's the Schedule 5 drugs, there are less potential for drug abuse and they're accepted for medical use. So this is like your NyQuil, your Dayquil, your Tylenol, all that good stuff you use, or cough drops, cough medicines. So over here in this slide, I do have some unfortunate overdose stories. Of, so here in the U.S., in May of 2000, a 19-year-old girl from Chicago was visiting her friend close from her house. She decided to take a pill of ecstasies. Hours later, she fell into a coma, and her body temperature was really high, like it was 108 degrees Fahrenheit, and was bleeding internally. Especially in the article, it does mention about how her blood cells erupted a lot. So, and also unfortunately, there was blood coming out of her mouth, and sadly later on she died during that day. And they tested her, and they she mistakenly took PMA instead of ecstasy, ecstasy. And across the globe, internationally, especially for Australia, in June of 2005, there were 12 people from Australia that overdosed ecstasy. One girl did unfortunately pass away from consuming half of a tablet, and they mentioned that it could possibly because uh, it could it's possible that she did consume PSA because PMA, because normally PMA is a substitution for ecstasy because, like I mentioned before, they have the same mechanism of action they do and the same side effects and consequences they can cause. And the whole story relates to the symptoms I mentioned before about PMA of what happens if you take it. Like it can regulate it can affect your body temperature, your mood, your sleep, um, all that terrible symptoms. And in the next slide, these are my citations. So for the BBC citation, I did use that to find the nickname for the PMA, which is peak McDonald's or peak ecstasy. And then the bottom citation for the PMA and the PMMA article, I used that for the rest of the slides. And that's about it for today. And thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope you guys have a good day. Thank you.